Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this first conference in the Minalogic business meetings. I am happy to introduce my colleague, David Gal-Regniez, in charge in Minalogic of design issues, and he designed this conference program. So it's my great pleasure to introduce him. I will be the timekeeper. The conference program is very tight, so we should keep the schedule, and we will end in half an hour. You are all muted, and if you have questions, please do not hesitate to write them in the chat on the right hand of your desktop of your screen. So enjoy. David, I suggest you share your screen in a full screen mode, maybe?
Yes,
okay,
that's fine.
It's easier for us to follow you. Enjoy.
Okay. Thank you very much, Laure. Thank you to everyone to be with me to begin the conference cycles. The objective of this presentation is, of course, to introduce all the conferences, so you have the possibility to follow after mine. First of all, who am I? I'm the technical manager of content and uses at Minalogic, and I was a former general manager of another competitiveness cluster, which was called Imaginov, which were dedicated to content industries. So with the integration of Imaginov in Minalogic, we tried to develop this cultural and content industry topic in Minalogic. That's why we decided to develop a cycle of conferences about design and user-centric innovations. I will divide my presentation in four parts. First, I will begin with the first assumption about what we think about design. We will try to understand who is the designer and which methodology and tools he may use, and we will try to understand why design is becoming perhaps the next main strategic approach for the enterprise. And I will finish with the Minalogic ecosystem and some suggestions to go further. So first assumption. So design is not art. In France, typically we have to we used to think that designers are artists. But it's due to the first thing that the term itself, design, is English and is not well perceived in France. And the design means conception, design, dessin, model, and we make a fourth link with the act of drawings, but even if it's skills for the designer, it's not the main skill we are waiting for a designer. We have a neologism between dessin as a representation and dessin as an objective in France. Moreover, the design activity belongs to the creative industry, as the gaming industry, architecture, and so on. And it depends on the Minister of Culture and Communication and not of the Economic Minister. So we have this ambiguity who remains in the perception of what is a designer. Moreover, we have the perception of design have to create beautiful things. So it's linked to the to aesthetics, and is due to a book written by Levy about La laideur se vend mal, and who explains that we have to things beautiful things to be efficient, but we will see that it's not necessarily the main factor. And the last point of this perception we have about design, especially in France, is the starification of the designer. So as you may see, Stark itself is in this starification orientation. And we have more designers that are like artists and or great footballer and so on, soccer player and so on.
David, just to stop you 1 second, your screen's stuck on the first slide.
Yeah.
So we've only seen the first slide.
So you don't see all my slides?
C'est ça, il faut que tu... Genre, je sais pas si tu es coincé sur le mauvais écran, si tu en as en double écran, ou genre, pour l'instant, on est bloqué sur le premier slide.
Ok. Est-ce que vous voyez mes slides maintenant quand je suis plus en mode de présentation?
Je vois la souris bouger.
Je refais le partage.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I think it's the slides are really good, so I think it's important to be able to see the slides.
And now?
Yep, we see the screen. Design is not art.
Okay. And the next one now?
No, still on design is not art.
Okay. So, feeling that I have to share my screen.
There's some advice in the chat saying if you deactivate your secondary screen, it should work.
But I don't know what is the second screen. I have only one screen.
Okay. Boom. Let me see if I can get some technical help for you.
Do you have any Laura, perhaps you can share my presentation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hang on a second. Okay, do you see it?
Okay. Okay, wait. Sorry for that. Sorry for that. So you can go to the next slide.
Is that the right one?
Yeah.
Okay.
But you're not in the presentation mode also.
Here you go.
Okay, so design is not only product design is a second first assertion. We have a large view of typology of what design can do, especially and the most approach is graphic design, like visual design, marketing and advertising, editing, packaging, animation, and art and illustration. You have, of course, interactivity and user experience who lead to new approach with sensority features like haptics, like sound design. You have, of course, product design, but we see that design is englobing some new domains. So, like environments, to the fact to design a showroom or an agency and so on. We have development of services design. And we'll see with Cité du Design that a territory may be designed thanks to an identity, an approach of services that this territory may bring to the people. And the last point is that the design staff may be integrating at a high level, and we speak about more management design, which is more strategic for the enterprise or for the structure who use it, which you use it. The next slide, please. So, is a designer an architect? I try to compare designer with architect because we will see that like the architect, the designer has to manage a complex environment and different expertise around himself. But before, I would like to remember you some concept about innovation, and two main tools which I consider important is technology readiness level and the hype cycle Gartner. These two tools may be an opportunity to anticipate the evolution of technology and to determine the window to bring a new product or a new service to the market, and to understand if the client may be ready for an incremental innovation or enough mature to adopt it for in the case of a disruptive innovation. So, next slide, please. The designer so try to reconcile two different kind of innovation approach. We used to speak about top-down innovation, so and bottom-up innovation. From the bottom-up innovation, people are the more important aspect. We are using tools to understand what people want, and we bring the technology to this needs. On the contrary, the top-down innovation starts from the research and development department and try to make the technology adopted by the customers. The designer, moreover, must be able to conceptualize and to formalize the new concepts, the new product, the new services, the new interface. So that's why we used to see the designer as an artist, because he's able to make sketching, to drawings, to illustrate the concepts of the new products or services. And the last skills of the designer is the capacity to animate and coordinate, as we can understand the different people around the table. We have only two group of person here on this slide. The final one who is the user, and the first one who is the engineer who conceives the product. But we will see that it's more large. It's larger than that. Next slide, please. Hello, Laura. Do you hear me? I don't see the slide anymore. Hello, hello.
I think we've lost Laura as well. Hold up. Let me see if I can get the presentation up. Okay, can you see that?
Yes. So
good. Were you on this one?
Yes, the next one, please.
All right. Is that okay?
So, yeah. So, like I said, the designer must have an holistic approach. He's not an expert. He have to scope with humanities, engineering, and economics. By engineering, we evoke the way you conceive practically the products or the services or the interface. So you have to understand which materials you have to use, which mechanical principle you have to face with. You have some concept of ergonomy to know. But it's not enough. You have to integrate what we call humanities. That means you have to understand for who is dedicated your product or services, and in which context. And designer have to deal with anthropologists, sociologists, or psychologists to understand how the user or the final consumer will adopt your product or services. And the third and last part is the economics one. And designer must have be the paragon of the cost of your product or your services, and to assure a return of investment. So this last part is less known, but it's perhaps the most important, because it determines how you can or you can't do what you want to do. And we will see also that this approach is almost iterative. Next slide, Kate, please. So now we are going to switch to the methodology and tool. Next slide. Thank you. So by methodology, we think automatically to design thinking. This methodology was developed at the Stanford University in 1980s, but the widespread of this methodology is due mainly to the American Society firm IDEO, which was the first design agency who developed this methodology at large scale. To summarize this methodology, we have three main steps. The first one is to inspire. So it's the first part to more linked to the birth of ideas or concepts and to understand the environment, the customer, and to be able to enter in the second phase, which is the ideate step, in which you enter in a more concrete phase by formalizing ideas and prototyping and experimenting these ideas. By the way, the next step is the implementation. So you begin to experiment with the customer and to obtain backgrounds and forwards for the product or services you want to bring to the market. And when you consider that your product or services is arrived to the right point, you bring it to the market. Another model which is often mentioned is UK Design Council's double diamond model, which defines this iterative design process, and we go back if we need to improve the services or the product, and in an iterative process. Next slide, Kate, please. Thank you. To do that, we the designer have the possibility to use some tools, and as an holy grail, the post-it has makes the symbol of what design is. But I would like to make a parallel between the Agile manifesto for people like me who were working in software development. This methodology and especially this manifesto define a lot of things we can see now for the design approach, and especially for the design thinking approach, especially for the print design, and this aspect of iterative and agility, iteration and agility is something we used to develop in software ecosystem, and it's quite interesting to see how software industry influence design industry. But the fact is now that with digitalization, we have the possibility as designer or as design approach to use digital tools, and even if you don't want to use a post-it, you can now use software who use virtual post-it, but you have a lot of ideation tools or design-oriented tools like Miro, Global, Tamashare to share with people new ideas, to define your concept, and use mind mapping, or to define task management like Trello. But new tools are giving new possibilities to the designer, and especially if we are looking at content industry environment. I think especially with the game industry, which offer a new game engine and virtual reality as a tool of sharing concrete design, and to organize collaborative meetings. We can think about what webcomics can bring for storytelling, for example. And Video is coming a very important tool for more future-oriented approach, which is called design fiction.
David, last 5 minutes. I'm sorry.
Yes, but I'm quite at the end.
Very good.
I'm almost at the end of the presentation, and I would like to finish this small introduction to the place design is taking now. And if you can go to the next slide, yeah, the next one. And we know that, no, just like before, we know now that design bring an economic impact for enterprises. As Pels say, if you think good design is expensive, you should look at the cost of bad design. We know that design have an economic impact, and would suggest you to download the design management booklet that CTD Design has written for the government, which detail all the economic aspect and impact for the enterprise. The next point is I wanted to share with you is Philippe Picot's model. Philippe Picot was innovation manager at Decathlon and now at Carrefour, and he defined a model in which he demonstrates that enterprises used to make a lot of investment in innovation and in materials, in infrastructure to produce a new product or offer new services. And the second budget was dedicated to marketing and communication, and the last one to design. But if we look at the desire or the needs of the customer, or the clients, his perception is completely different. We have to understand what is the value that the client perceives to make the investment equivalent to this perception. So Philippe Picot demonstrates that we have to invest more in design to be able to answer more to the perception of the client before investigating in how we do that. And the last slide for the strategic approach is to evoke the leader model by our Danish friends. No, I don't see the next one. Slide. Yes, thank you. Just to share with you this leader which define how in a structure, company or collectivity integrate design as is in intern. So we have 4 step possibility to integrate that just for the product or services, as a styling, or you define the style of your company, and then you generate and you integrate design as a process, and then at the top you define design as strategy. Next slide.
David,
I will go. Yeah, I know. I just finished with. If you want to to think, if you want to discover the Minalogic members and ecosystem, don't hesitate to contact me or my colleague. We have a lot of companies which are involved in design and user-centric innovation. from the ideas to the realization of your product. And the second slide I wanted to show you is services Minalogic can offer you. So to bring some funding for your innovation, to enlarge your network, or to develop your business, thanks design. And the last slide I wanted to share with you is the go further. So I recommend you hardly to see the conferences. I give you some link to books and video, and especially the video from IDEO, which is very, very good. And the next slide and the last one is remember of the following conferences. Sorry for all the problem we had with projection and for my very hard English to hear.
Many thanks, David. That was wonderful. The presentation was recorded. You will be able to listen to it again. And if you have any further questions, most of you know David, so please contact him. And thank you. This conference is now ended, and enjoy your day. Bye.